Prodi Academy YouTube channel. I'm Michelle, and in today's video we're going to be discussing what makes winery accounting difficult. Now, if you are in the wine business, you already know that the winemaking industry is a different business, especially when it comes to accounting practices. Now, accounting for wineries and vineyards is difficult, but to make things easier, you'll need an accountant with experience in wineries and in vineyards in particular. Anyone without the experience is prone to making mistakes which could lead to financial woes for you. Most agricultural bookkeeping, whether with crops and crop rotation, produce or livestock, is straightforward. Accountants in the agriculture business only have to maintain one set of books. However, the winemaking process is different in terms of accounting. In reality, there are two types of accounting going on at the same time within the wine business. So first up, in accounting terms, we look at the vineyards. Now, these are the fields where the grapes are grown, and this operates as a traditional farm. Now, that means that the farmer built the arbors or trellises to hold the grapevines, planted the grapes, waited for them to mature, and then harvested them. The farmer also handles the pesticides, replanting, and other issues with the vineyard. The farmer selects specific grapes to grow depending on the type of wine that is desired, the soil conditions, and the planting or growing season. Now, because vineyards are an agricultural crop, accountants can keep the books as a cash accounting business. If the grower has a vineyard without a winery, then the cash accounting method of bookkeeping is still acceptable because the crop is planted, grown, and harvested within a cycle that typically spans one growing season. Payments for the growing season also occur at one specific time. Many vineyards are attached to a winery business, so if you own both a winery and a vineyard, then the cash method just isn't enough. Wineries must be measured on an accrual basis of accounting. So in accrual accounting, revenue and expenses are recorded in the books at the time the transaction takes place. Now, many wineries use accrual accounting as part of their bookkeeping process because not all wine sells at the time of bottling. A bookkeeper would record expenditures for wine barrels at the time of the barrel purchase. Now, that wine that goes into the barrel may not be sold for months or years, at which time the bookkeeper would then record the revenue. Cash accounting is easier than accrual accounting because expenses and revenue happen in the same growing season. Accrual accounting takes someone with far more knowledge of accounting practices. Now, because of the operations of a winery with a vineyard, a wine accountant must be able to balance two books using cost and accrual accounting practices rather than just a single ledger. Not only does a wine accountant need to manage two books, but they must also understand the long period of vineyard growth. Now, beginning operations as a vineyard is an expensive initial investment. After you purchase the land, you must pay for the arbors or trellises for the grapes and pick the types of grapes that you want to plant for winemaking. Grapes used in the winemaking process do take several years to grow and become good producers of wine. People who plant vineyards need to be in it for the long haul and not mind excessive spending with the return on investment in years rather than looking at in months. Wine accountants know that in order to operate a successful winery, expenditures must be capitalized throughout the growing process. So when commercial production begins, the accountant can begin to account for both expenditures and income on the ledger. Capitalization is important during the process or during the wine production process because it allows the business room to grow without all of the expenses taking the operating and production capital out of the business when production begins. When an accountant uses the cost accounting procedure for a winery, they must use a non-traditional method. So two of the processes during the making of wine, being the crushing of grapes and bottling of the wine, do take a short amount of time. That means that the expenses or income happens quite quickly. However, the other two processes involved in winemaking are more long-term. So wine is aged in barrels for a period of time before it is poured into the bottle, and once it's in the bottle, or once it's poured into the bottle, it is then aged again. Any costs incurred here happen over a period of months or even years, And in fact, the higher grade a wine is and the more expensive it is, the longer the aging process takes. In activity-based cost analysis, costs are assigned by wine type. So that way, an accountant can figure out exactly how much it costs to produce the wine, either by the gallon or by the bottle. However, this analysis can get complicated for an accountant. Each wine has a different storage time, and this impacts your cost accounting. Wine accountants also have to take shrinkage into account because the volume of the wine in a bottle does shrink during the aging or bottling process. A winery may sell some of its wine in bulk, either in the barrel or in the bottle before it is even aged. Wineries may also value their inventories differently and in different ways, including first in and first out. There could also be charitable donations of bottles, which need to be taken into account when doing your inventory or tracking your inventory rather. So the winery accountant needs to stay on top of that as well. Winery accounting is understandably complex, especially if you own or manage both a winery and a vineyard. So if you do manage both, or if you own both, then it is absolutely crucial that you have a wine accountant on board who has the experience and is familiar with bookkeeping and inventory practices of wineries. As always, we trust you found this video insightful, and should you have any thoughts, comments, or suggestions for future content that you'd like to see, please feel free to pop it in the comment section below. Please also join us on our social media platforms such as LinkedIn and Facebook, or at our website at proteafinancial.com. Protea Academy, striving to achieve better accounting for everyone.